25 years ago, Hamas terror ripped through a Sbarro pizzeria in Jerusalem, killing 16 people, including 8 children and a pregnant woman. Among those murdered, 3 Americans, one who was only 15 years old. Now, the father of Malki Roth continues to seek justice. We are now joined from Jerusalem by Arnold Roth, her father. Thank you for being here, and I appreciate your coming and speaking over a situation that I imagine has been even more complicated with the ongoing war and hostage situation in Gaza.
That's a fair statement. Life would have been complicated enough without all of that, but yes, it's become more difficult in certain very touching ways.
So tell us more about the situation. Ahlam Tamimi, she was a female terrorist who engineered this attack, was arrested and released, given safe haven in Jordan as part of the Gilad Shalit hostage deal. How have you been able to move on, if at all, without justice?
Our moving on has nothing to do with justice. We're a healthy family and interested in making a contribution to life. So it's true that we're quite preoccupied, perhaps me more than others, in trying to get the American justice system to claim this woman. She's been charged, but she's free in Jordan, has been free since 2011, living free in Jordan, but then charged, and now America's most wanted female fugitive, but still free, as you've correctly noted, still free because Jordan refuses to comply with its extradition treaty with the United States. And no one so far in the United States has chosen to raise their voice to the Jordanians.
So do you feel like there is a momentum in a more positive direction, now that it is on the radar of President Trump and the people around him?
I'd have to say yes, without actually being able to point to specific concrete steps. We've had, my wife and I, several constructive meetings with people in positions of influence in the United States government, in marked contrast to the way things have been for the previous many years. Does this mean that justice is going to happen? Well, it absolutely should, given the positive statements that have emanated from people like President Biden, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, and a whole host of others who keep asserting that this case is, quote, a foremost priority for the United States, unquote, and yet the woman stays free in Jordan, living a charmed life and absolutely not in the hands of American law enforcement.
But do you feel now with, President Trump trying to, talk about reviving Abraham Accords, et cetera, and, really standing behind the American Jews who have been subjected to violence and whatnot, do you feel like in any way having him being a voice could help pressure from other means, the Jordanian government, to extradite her?
I think that President Trump could make this happen in a second, maybe less than a second. No, we're not seeing any of those steps happening, and I'm sorry if people anywhere have that impression. There are positive signs, there are positive conversations we've had, but at any given moment, the United States, which has a totally dominant position vis-a-vis Jordan at multiple levels, could have said, we want her on the flight this afternoon, and she would be on the flight this afternoon. None of that has happened, and she's being free, charged, and with a $5 million bounty on her head issued by the State Department since 2017, and the charges are 5 years older than that. So we get a prize for being patient. I think that anyone who's following this case must wonder how we keep going in that sense. And the answer is one of the first things I said. We have a healthy, good family. We take a lot of pride and pleasure from children and grandchildren, and we stay focused on the things that give us blessings in life. Would we like to see the justice happen? Absolutely, of course.
And let's talk about the American, the Jewish organizations. I know it has been disappointing for you over the years, but in the wake of the ongoing war and what has happened, do you feel that there's power in numbers and the Jewish organizations and advocacy groups are taking more of an interest?
Your question is excellent. I think the answer is I think that it's probably disappointing to them, at least as disappointing as it is to me and to my wife. There's very, very, very little that has been done by American Jewish organizations taken as a whole. That's extraordinary to anyone watching this and who thinks, no, that's understandable. It's not. This is a major issue. The woman is America's most wanted female fugitive. All of the victims of this crime were Jews. It ought to be screamed from the rafters. That's not the situation. Such as they are, the positive statements that have been made have basically been positive statements that we solicited and were then followed up by and large, and I'm leaving out a little bit of detail, by nothing. And anyone who doesn't see how frustrating that is, how absolutely that betrays the mission of those many American Jewish organizations, they're not being serious and they're not paying attention.
Oh, that is clearly disappointing. And please tell us why is it so important, of course, for the world not to forget your daughter who died in vain as a young woman?
Well, she died in vain because she was an innocent child of 15. Others have been killed, with Israeli machine guns in their hands, defending the Jewish state. I have a son-in-law who's no longer alive, who was doing that in Gaza right up until the day he was killed on the 7th of December, 2023. It's not a disappointment to me personally. It's a betrayal of American Jewish values. It's a betrayal of American justice. I think anyone involved, and there are many people involved from the position of the establishment, the American establishment and the American Jewish establishment, agrees with that statement. I don't think there's a single person that I've met or tried to meet who has purported to justify the fact that justice has not been done. There's every reason why it should have been done. The flaw that prevents Jordan from exercising its own laws and handing her over, which it's obliged to do by treaty, is a Jordanian flaw only caused by Jordan, only curable by Jordan, and it's only had every day since 1995 when they claimed the flaw happened to fix it. So there's a lot that's dysfunctional here, and I think a lot of people should be upset. I'm certainly upset, but I'm not alone, and it's not because the world has forgotten my daughter. The world hasn't forgotten my daughter, and thankfully we have a foundation called Malki, which makes sure people remember it because it does good things in her name. But this isn't about my daughter's memory, as tragic and as painful as our loss is. She's really just the symbol.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Arnold, for your candor and for sharing your story. And we continue to pray that something will be done.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.